The sun was already high when the boy stepped into the middle of the busy roadside, lifting a scratched old bicycle with hands that trembled from hunger, his eyes scanning every passing biker with a hope that looked far too heavy for someone his age. Dust clung to his clothes, sweat ran down his forehead, and yet what stopped people wasn't the bike, it was the desperation carved into his face, the kind that makes adults look away because it feels too real. When he finally spoke, his voice cracked like dry earth, carrying words that would change everything that day. "Buy my bike, sir. Mommy hasn't eaten in 2 days." Before the story continues, if you believe that kindness still exists in this world and that people deserve second chances, please take a moment to like this video, comment your thoughts, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to the channel Kindness Journal. Your support keeps stories like this alive. The boy's name was Arif Malik, 9 years old, thin as a shadow, standing on the edge of a highway where motorcycles roared past under the harsh daylight. His bike was too small for him now, its paint faded blue, the chain squeaking with every small movement. It was the only thing he owned that had any value, and he held it like a lifeline. Every biker who slowed down saw the same thing, a child asking not for charity, but for a transaction that might save his mother. Most hesitated, some shook their heads, others rode away faster, guilt buzzing louder than their engines. Across the road, under the broken shade of a billboard, stood a group of bikers who had stopped for tea. They called themselves the Iron Nomads, men and women who rode together every weekend, bound by engines, road dust, and a promise they made years ago to never ignore suffering when it stared them in the face. The leader, a broad-shouldered man named Raghav Vern, noticed the boy immediately. Raghav had lived long enough to recognize real hunger. He had grown up with it, survived it, and carried its memory like an old scar. The bikers watched as Arif approached one rider after another, each rejection bending his shoulders a little more. Raghav felt something twist in his chest. He walked toward the boy, boots crunching on gravel, sunlight glinting off his helmet. Arif looked up, fear and hope colliding in his eyes, gripping the bike tighter as if expecting it to be snatched away. Raghav didn't reach for his wallet. He asked the boy where his mother was. Arif pointed toward a narrow lane behind the tea stalls, a place most people ignored. He said his mother was sick, that she hadn't eaten because there was no work and no food left. He said someone had taken everything from them, and that the bike was the last thing he could sell. Instead of buying the bike, Raghav called the rest of the Iron Nomads over. Under the unforgiving daylight, engines silent, they listened as Arif told his story in broken sentences. His mother, Mira Malik, had once worked as a tailor, sewing clothes from dawn to dusk. They lived simply but with dignity until one afternoon changed their lives. The landlord, a man named Kunal Deshpande, had demanded months of rent at once, claiming new rules. When Mira couldn't pay, he threw their belongings onto the street. The sewing machine was taken to cover dues, their savings vanished in fees and bribes, and Mira fell ill soon after, her strength fading as quickly as their hope. The bikers exchanged glances. This wasn't just poverty, it was cruelty dressed as authority. Raghav looked at Arif and told him to lead the way. They parked their bikes and followed the boy through the narrow lane, past open drains, stray dogs sleeping in the sun, and walls stained with years of neglect. They reached a small room with a cracked door and no windows. Inside, daylight filtered weakly through gaps in the roof. Mira lay on a thin mat, her face pale, eyes sunken but alert with worry. When she saw her son return with strangers, panic flashed across her face. She tried to sit up but failed, her body betraying her. Arif rushed to her side, explaining breathlessly. Raghav knelt at a respectful distance, removing his helmet, letting her see a human face instead of leather and metal. The Iron Nomads didn't ask permission. They acted. One rider went out to buy food and medicine. Another called a doctor they knew from past charity rides. Someone brought clean water. Under the bright daytime sun, hope crept quietly into that dark room. Mira ate slowly, tears slipping down her cheeks, embarrassed and overwhelmed. She kept trying to apologize, to explain that she would repay everything. Raghav told her repayment wasn't the point. What mattered was that she and her son were still alive. As Mira regained a little strength, the truth about Kunal Deshpande surfaced in full. He wasn't just a harsh landlord, he was known for exploiting vulnerable tenants, forcing illegal payments, threatening eviction without notice. Most people were too afraid to speak. Raghav listened carefully, his jaw tightening. He knew this kind of man. Men who took everything and slept peacefully. The Iron Nomads didn't leave after the food was finished. They stayed, discussing quietly, planning. By late afternoon, the doctor arrived and confirmed what they feared but could manage: severe weakness, dehydration, and stress induced illness. With proper care and nutrition, Mira could recover. The bikers arranged for medicines and follow up visits. They promised Arav that his mother would not be alone again, but Raghav knew kindness alone wasn't enough. Justice mattered too. The next morning, under clear daylight skies, the iron nomads rode together to the landlord's office, engines roaring like a warning. They didn't threaten violence. They brought documents, witnesses, and contacts. One of the bikers, Anaya Karana, worked as a legal clerk. She knew exactly which laws Kunal had broken. When confronted, Kunal tried to laugh it off, then intimidate them. But daylight has a way of exposing things darkness hides. Tenants gathered, emboldened by the presence of the bikers. Stories poured out. Complaints were filed. Local authorities, already wary of public attention, couldn't ignore a crowd, cameras, and proper paperwork. Kunal's power shrank quickly when faced with collective courage. Within days, Mira received compensation for illegal eviction. Her sewing machine was returned. The room they lived in was repaired, sunlight finally entering through a proper window. Arav went back to school with a lunchbox that wasn't empty. His bike still is, now oiled and fixed by one of the bikers who loved mechanics more than riding. Life didn't become perfect overnight. Mira still struggled with her health, work was slow to return, and fear didn't vanish easily. But something fundamental had changed. She wasn't invisible anymore. Arav walked taller, not because he had money, but because he had seen what kindness could do. Weeks later, under a bright afternoon sky, the iron nomads returned, not with noise, but with smiles. Mira had stitched small cloth badges for them, each with a simple symbol of a road and a heart. It was her way of saying thank you. Arav watched them leave, engines fading into the distance, sunlight bouncing off helmets, knowing that strangers had rewritten their story just before the ending. A special request to you watching: please comment below with the word kindness if you believe one act of compassion can change an entire life. As the camera of memory pulls back, the image that remains isn't the hungry boy on the roadside, but the same boy riding his bike in the afternoon sun, laughter echoing down the lane, his mother watching from the doorway with quiet strength in her eyes. The bikers learned who took everything from her, but more importantly, they showed her that not everything is lost forever. If this story touched your heart, if it made you feel something real, please like, comment, share, and stay connected with Kindness Journal. Your engagement helps spread these stories of hope, reminding the world that even in the harshest daylight, humanity can still shine.